Wicked Mini Paintings. Yeah. What's up everyone, my name is Brent Lee and welcome to Wicked Mini Painting How to Paint Tutorials. And with this video here, I'm going to give you the whole breakdown on how to paint Thousand Suns. We're going to probably take this in probably like a 2 to 3 part video, but this one here I wanted to give you the base colors of how I paint Thousand Suns. It's not like your traditional blue or your 30K reds. We're going to kind of go with this like bluish green, sea, like that sea, that green sea. I am a Twitch content streamer, so if you want to come over and see live content, go over onto my twitch.tv/wickedminipaintings to see live content when I'm painting new stuff like the new Necrons and Tyrannid for my upcoming streams. I'll have all the content and everything in the description below. And just let everybody know, if you do like this video, make sure you hit that subscription button, followed by a like, and hit that notification bell. It'll have for new content that comes out. I'm trying to do a video every week about everything that I can do with painting online on my Twitch content, and then I try to transfer it over into YouTube content. So it's been a process, it's been fun. But let's go ahead and knock this down. I will have all the descriptions of everything that I use in the description part below on this video. But without further ado, let's get our wicked on. Alright guys, we're sitting here doing a voiceover because everything's so noisy, like usual, with the airbrush and everything else. So I'm going to be doing a voiceover of what I've been using. So you can see here, we're going to be busting out some jade from Monument Hobbies, Pro Acryl, and the airbrush work. And what we're going to be doing is working on our base, mid-tones, and highlights. No edge highlights at this moment. I think in the second part of this video, because I'm just going to be doing just those 3 colors. As you can see, when we're doing the airbrush, you always need that flow improver to water down that paint, and a little bit of more water to get the flow to come out of that airbrush properly. So this is going to be how we're going to tackle on my Thousand Suns. So you can see I'm just doing a little bit of work. So a little bit of work up on this. Stir it up. Make sure the color's coming out looking good. Get those bubbles. And then I was just like, oh, I need air in this thing. And then lots of bubbles means that it's going to have a good flow. Always test it out first before you start shooting it on your figure. And then sit there and start throwing a whole batch of colors on there. Make sure it's nice, solid. Get all the colors. Get that color in everything. All the nook and crannies in there. That's going to be your base coat. That jade is a beautiful color. Absolutely beautiful color. I think you could probably use that for like Horus Heresy too. Like if I was doing Horus Heresy, I would definitely be going with jade. I would have to do some mixtures of making like a darker jade, and then do the jade and then highlight it with a bright jade. But with this Thousand Suns, I wanted to get that sea blue, so like a Fiji sea blue. So we're gonna start with the jade and just start getting that, all the colors put all on that bad boy. Everything gets covered. I'm not worried about getting it on things that I didn't want to get it on, because right now this is just basing. So it's just all primed, and then we just shoot jade all over the whole figure. Make sure it comes out looking really nice. And then with all that coloring with the jade, the Monument Hobby paints, I'll make sure to put that all in the link description below. Link it all. I'm sponsored affiliated with Monument Hobbies. So I'll have the link and a promo code there if you want to try out some of this paint. I really highly recommend it. It's amazing stuff. So I added a little bit more water into my pot so I can get into the crevices in the deep recesses in that figure a little bit more. So I sat there and I was like, well, it was going on pretty good, but then we just need to hit it a little bit harder. So just kind of flowing through that whole thing, shoulder pads and everything, because I'm not exactly sure how all the colors are going to fit in there. So I just make sure that the whole thing is just colored with that beautiful jade. I love that color. I mean, it's probably one of my favorites. One of the favorites out of the bunch of paints. There's a lot of paints. I like them all, but that jade for some reason just has something amazing to it. So what I'm doing now is I'm rinsing out my airbrush, not completely, just kind of getting the main portion of the paint out of my airbrush. And then we're going to start jumping up into the next color. It could be a little bit wet. It's not a problem with the base coat on the figure. I'm going to be taking some of that bright jade. All right, and so now we're going to start applying our midtones. Midtones are a little bit different than our base coat because we're just going to be applying them midway on the figures. That's why we call it a midtone. So a midtone is that it's not going into the deep recesses of the figure. It's just going on the outer exposed surfaces of the figure itself. So put a little flow improver. Flow improver is always nice to have in an airbrush to keep the needle wet. A little bit extra water in there to get some flow to shoot out of the airbrush. And then backflow it by plugging the front in there and getting a bunch of bubbles going up. And then you're going to see that I'm going to really lighten down, restrict the airflow from it. And then we're just going to sit here hitting like the toes, going up part of that shin guard. And just like real lightly, you can see me just kind of just hitting just little parts here and there, the main surface areas. And then you can see it's going to go really bright. Hitting up on the shoulder pads, right up in the top chest piece, kind of giving that mid-tone right into those shoulder pads, hitting the backpack. You can really see like the real big brightness on that figure. Now it's getting a little bit brighter. That thing's looking really hot right now. Just kind of hitting everything that seems like it's exposed to light more so than the most parts of the recessed areas. So just kind of sit there and kind of walk through that figure, see where the legs are exposed. But you can see like now we got some midtones. And then you're going to see me rinse out this water again. It's because I'm only working on a singular figure. Otherwise, you'd have assembly line of 10 of those bad boys, and you'll be doing the same thing process and running an assembly line, doing all the base colors, then going all the way through the midtones. And then we're going to start getting ourselves prepped up, doing highlights. And the highlights are super easy to do. And the highlights are going to be with turquoise. Turquoise is just a little bit of a brighter jade, has a little bit more blue flow into it. And then we're going to sit here and mix that in our pot as well. Even you see like I still have some of that bright jade in there. It's not going to make a difference. It's just going to help out with the transition. And a little bit of flow improver. There we go. A little bit of water. Give it a little stirry stew, and then let's start applying a very bright color back onto this figure. Backflow it, plug the tip of the front of the brush, airbrush, pull it for some air, and then watch the bubbles flow. Now we're going to go into very extensive, very precise where we want to put our highlights. So this is what we're going to consider a highlight. Alright, it's not an edge highlight because we're not going across the edges like what we would do with a brush. So right now I'm just going to be taking this and just hitting the very parts where we're going to put the highest part of the contrast of light reflection. See that shoulder pad? Like pow. Super bright, right down the legs. Bam. Back of the heel, going up the back of the that leg piece there. And start hitting the exposed parts on the backpack. The backpack's probably the one that gets the brightest out of the bunch. Just kind of hit it over again. The chest piece, the head, of course. Go a little bit up on the little sides of his helmet exposure. Sometimes you have to go back through. I normally hit them about twice just to make sure that I can get that brightness up on that figure. Now we're just kind of accentuating the colors up to the highest point of contrast. Sometimes it looks a little overbearing, but that's when we're going to sit here and we're going to tone that back down again. But we're pretty close to almost being done with just the highlights. It's super fast. You know, you're just touching certain parts on the figure and then that's it. It's like it's done. Now you can see how bright that is. It's extremely bright. And it's all right. It's all right to go that way because we're going to go super bright and then now we're going to tone it down. So I'm going to rinse out my airbrush again. And completely kind of cleaning it out quite a bit because the next color we're going to do for the tone down. So this is how we're going to get that sea blue going on there. And that sea blue happens because we're going to be using a new color. And the only color that you can get it from, as you can see, I'm still trying to clear out my airbrush, but it's transparent blue from Monument Hobbies. They have a whole bunch of transparent colors with like yellows and greens, reds, orange, browns, black, and purples. They're absolutely amazing. They're pigmented paint, but they're super transparent. So you can see that transparent blue. All right, and that is a stellar color. The transparents are absolutely amazing. If you have not got transparent paints, I highly recommend it. Like I said, it'll be all down in the description link. It'll be in a link in the description below if you want to get up on that. But I put very little, quite a bit of flow improver, and then I put a lot of water in there. I mean, I put like a drop of transparent blue. This is how highly pigmented it is. But it is very transparent too. So it's just how thick or thin you want to go. I'll add more water to that so we can make it into like a glaze from an airbrush. And then you can see how I'm just shooting it out. And then you can see that color that goes over top of it. And then I'm going to cover the whole figure this way. Just kind of just lay it all on there. Now all your very bright areas are going to start toning down with this blue. It's going to still keep those bright contrasted areas on your figure, but it's just going to tone everything down so it's not so abundantly bright on your figure. And then this is how we're going to be pulling out that blue. Alright, so it's not your normal traditional Thousand Suns blue where you go in with you know, working with true blues. I literally went with a jade all the way up to a turquoise, and then I toned it all down with just a blue, with just transparent blue. And that is such a great way of going up to a real high contrast and then just toning it down so it's not so bright, but still bringing in the colors. And then as you can see, it's just absolutely a beautiful shade for Thousand Suns. And then I'll just kind of hit some flow through it, just because one, you got to kind of wait and dry, see how it looks when it dries. Sometimes it could be a little bit more abundantly blue, but right there, that's the color I wanted to go right there. Thank you guys so much. This is the first part. Second part, we'll start doing the trim pieces with the gold. We'll do true metallic metal gold, and finish up the rest of the figure on the second part of this video. If you like this, let me know. Hit me up on the comments. Till then, thanks guys so much. Have a good one.